Here we will see disconnected architecture of ADO.NET. Disconnected architecture is a method that allows users to access data retrieved from a database even after database connection is closed. Disconnected architecture is a method that allows users to access the data retrieved from the database even after connection is closed. It gives the best performance when dealing with multi-layered applications. Disconnected architecture mode involves the program that issues a query, retrieve the result and storing them for processing. Data adapter, data set or data table are used to implement the disconnected architecture. Since data set serves as a temporary storage, there is no need to create a connection for the duration of the operation. Here web or Windows form send the query to the data adapter and data adapter send this query to database. Different components of disconnected architectures are: first is connection, which is used to establish a connection to the database. Data adapter is responsible for transferring data between database and dataset. For transferring the data, it has 4 commands: select, insert, delete and update, where select is used to retrieve the data from the database and insert, update, delete are used to send the changes made to the data in the dataset to the database. By default, data adapter contains only select command. The main purpose of the command builder is to build insert, update and delete command for the data adapter. When there is a primary key on the table, then the command builder can successfully generate insert, update and delete command. But when there is no primary key on the table, it generates only insert command. Dataset is used for storing the data retrieved from the database by the data adapter and make it available for .NET applications. Data view is the view of the table available in the dataset. Its main purpose is to perform sorting and filtering the data available in tables in dataset. Here is the disconnected architecture of ADO.NET. Here database sends the command to the data adapter executes the command and fill the dataset, and the data from the dataset is available to Windows form. It will make changes to the dataset and then it is passed to the data adapter, which updates the data to the database. With working of disconnected architecture, first it makes the connection to the data source that you want to interact using a connection string that contains information such as server address, database name, authentication credentials and other connection specific details. After establishing a connection, create command objects is interact with the data source. Commands can be used to execute SQL queries like select statement, stored procedures or other database operations like insert, update and delete. Then it passes the SQL query or command text to the command object. The command object sends the command to the data source through the established connection. Data adapter object acts as an interface between the .NET application and the database. It fills the data set or data table, which helps the user to perform operations on the data. Once the data is modified, the modified data set or the data table is passed to the data adapter, which will update the modified data in the database. The data adapter object will internally manage the connection, that is, when to establish or terminate the connection. Next is when to use disconnected architecture. When you need an application that needs to read a large amount of data from a database and then process it offline. When an application needs to access the data from multiple users or devices. When an application that needs to improve the performance by reducing the number of database connections. Using the dataset, you can store several tables of information. You can even define relationships that allows user to browse through them more efficiently. When you need to do something time consuming with the data, by dumping it into the dataset first and you ensure that the database connection is kept open for as little time as possible. And when you want to navigate backward or forward through your data while you are processing it. This isn't possible with the data reader, which goes in one direction only. Advantages of disconnected architectures are: it enables offline data manipulation and batch updates to the database. It gives better performance for applications dealing with large data sets. It reduces the load on the database server by minimizing the connection time. It is best suitable for large applications with complex data interaction and requirements for offline data processing. It reduces network traffic, so it reduces the burden on the database. As database operations are done to a local database, there will be no database hitting for every request. You can access the data in forward and backward directions, and you can also modify the data. Using data adapter, we can persist the dataset or data table data into a database. The data adapter is an abstraction of connected classes that simplifies filling the disconnected dataset or data table class. which gives the data from the data source and update the data source to reflect any changes made to the disconnected data. The main advantage of disconnected architecture is to improve scalability and the ability to work the data even when the connection to the database is temporarily lost. And disadvantages of disconnected architectures are, as the data will be a part of local database or client machine, there will be less secure, which can be hacked easily. For every request or operation to the database, the local database will act as an interface between the user interface and the centralized database, and the result of the local database will be reflected in centralized database. So in this case, accessing or performance will be slow compared to the connection oriented architecture. And here a local database will be created within the client machine. Due to this reason, it will consume the client machine memory, which affects the performance of the client machine.